Howdy, folks. Widget Walls from needcoffee.com here. Back again on the couch for another Stayhomer review. Here's how it works for the uninitiated. I have just seen a film. I used to do that in the cinema. We're going to be doing that again at some point in the near future, I hope. But I've just seen a film, and previously I would drive home and tell you about it on my way home, hence the way homer. But since I'm here on my couch, I'm already home and I've stayed here, so stay homer. You kind of get the gist. Anyway, because I am on my couch and can basically watch anything that I can find to watch and thus review it, I can review things that I, wouldn't be able to necessarily see in the cinema at this point, even if they were playing. And that's why today we're here to talk about The Old Dark House. Now, I know what you're thinking. You want to ask me, which, do you mean the 1960s remake of The Old Dark House or the original 1932 Universal Old Dark House directed by James Whale? And that's a very good question. I'm happy to answer that. No, I'm talking about the 1932 one. So the 1960s one directed by William Castle, we'll deal with that another time. And so the next question you may have is, hey, Widge, why do you want to talk to us about a film that is practically, 90 years old? And that is a good question, and I will answer that too. The answer is, during this apocalypse, I found a pattern to some of the films that I was watching. I rewatched Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. I finally got around to watching Fritz Lang's M with Peter Lorre. I don't know why, just never gotten around to it. And of course, there's The Old Dark House. And what I realized was I'm sort of going through pioneering films. And what I mean by that is, I talk a lot about how it's important to understand cinematic history and context, because you can see something like, the example I always give is, I've seen people, they will watch a Hitchcock film and they will say, I've already seen that before. And it's like, well, yeah, you've seen it before, but this film came before what you saw, and Hitchcock did it first. So it's one of those things where you have to know the context of what you're watching. That's why when I made a list of when I get my time machine, I want to go back and see how people react to Boris Karloff waking up in The Mummy. Did they freak out completely, or was it just like, oh, that's cool? I don't know. I have no idea. So I would love to Lon Chaney taking off his mask in Phantom of the Opera. I know, spoilers, right? But I would love to see that in the context of one of the original screenings, if not the original screening. So Time Machine, that's coming. Eventually it'll get here. What is it? When they discover it, someone hopefully watching this in the future, when you discover the Time Machine, just pop back here and let's get going. Anyway, I'm digressing. So, but Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, pretty much every film after it, especially action films, owe something to it. It kicked off a lot of different things. M, you can see its DNA in every noir film ever. And with The Old Dark House, it's a subgenre of film that basically is named after it. It's The Old Dark House, meaning synopsis first. The synopsis is this. The synopsis is, married couple and a friend are driving through the countryside during essentially a monsoon. And the road's turning into a river. There's a terrific mudslide, which they, barely escape. And they just can't go any further. So they pull into, an old big Gothic mansion space and try to seek shelter from the storm. And they are eventually joined by a couple other people, and hijinks ensue. I mean, there's your synopsis. And now, if you notice, You probably knew that hijinks were going to ensue the moment I said, well, they pulled in to giant Gothic mansion. And that's because you've seen that sort of film before, but it owes its creation in some part to James Whale's The Old Dark House. So yeah, that, you know, creepy big house that's filled with secrets and people stumbling across said secrets and just malevolent forces may or may not be at work. I mean, that whole thing, you could see, I could see while rewatching it this time that I saw bits of it in The Haunting of Hill House that Netflix did with Mike Flanagan. So it just cascades down through the ages, and it's like music. There are certain bands that have influenced everybody, and even if you've never heard the bands, you've heard what came out of somebody else being influenced by them, even if they didn't know they were being influenced by them, because it just cascades. So, but the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because, that's important to know your cinematic history so you can better appreciate what you're seeing, and you can better appreciate, um, seeing stuff and going, okay, that must have been the first time somebody did that. That's incredible because it's from 1932. So there's that. And as I took notes because I didn't want to leave anybody out. So among the cast, you have Karloff. I'll get to him in a second. You have Gloria Stewart, who you might not recognize unless I tell you that she was the older Kate Winslet in Titanic, right? Then you have Melvyn Douglas, who you might not know his work, but you certainly know his granddaughter, Ileana. Ileana Douglas, right? That's how you pronounce it. I'm so terrible with names. Charles Laughton is in it, and he's Mutiny on the Bounty. You've seen him, even if you don't know that you've seen him. You've seen Looney Tunes parody him, even if you don't know that you've seen him. He also directed Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum. Raymond Massey, this is interesting. Raymond Massey is the guy from Arsenic and Old Lace, the Frank Capra Arsenic and Old Lace, that Boris Karloff was supposed to be in because the role references the actor Boris Karloff. It's a genius bit of in-joke, theatrical in-joke stuff. But Karloff could not get out of his contract doing the play on Broadway to go make the movie. So Raymond Massey took his place. So there you go. He did a fine job. It's just, that joke is priceless. And Ernest Thesiger, who you might recognize from Bride of Frankenstein. He was Dr. Pretorius in that. And Karloff. Let's talk about Karloff for a second. Karloff is in this, and I think I remember that this is like the first film where he got top billing. And he doesn't, if you don't watch the film for Karloff, because he's in it, but he doesn't have any lines. He plays like a mute manservant type of character, and isn't given much to do. So just know that going in. I don't want you to be like, an hour and 20 minutes in and going, when is Karloff going to do something? So there, I made notes because I was going to leave out somebody. I promise you. And the reason why you should also watch this film, apart from all the other reasons I've talked about, is, okay, so I mentioned wanting to go back in the time machine to see stuff like Karloff waking up in The Mummy, primarily because, like I said, did audiences have a stronger reaction to that because they don't have our decades of, film knowledge and film watching, everything that's come after it. Have we become jaded and so we don't react like that anymore, or we've just seen really realistic horrible stuff and so we don't react like that anymore? Did they react, or did they just go, oh, that's cool? I mean, I don't know, but you've seen films like this where you think, okay, that probably was really scary back in the day, but that's not doing anything for me. Old Dark House has moments in it that are creepy, and they sustain their creepiness even almost a century later, which is very rare. Um, in fact, I can't think of a film that sustains the creepiness has no expiration date. You know what I mean? And there's weird stuff and there's maybe horrific stuff, but this is just creepy. And like I said, I think the creepiness is probably, if anything, enhanced by the fact that we've seen a whole bunch of different kinds of movies, potentially more than a crowd in 1932 would have. But it's just really well acted, and that's part of it. The other thing is, it's fun to see, a pre-Hays Code film, always, because there's always something in there. Hays Code, for those of you who don't know, kids ask your grandparents, was basically the kind of decency board that they put together to make sure that nothing untoward got released in films. It eventually morphed into, the phoenix that rose from its ashes was the Motion Picture Association of America and its ratings and whatnot. But it's very there's the family of the old dark house that they go into. The brother and sister that live there are bickering about, the sister is very religious, very spiritual, and the brother is a full-blown atheist, not hinting around, maybe doesn't believe, but like full-blown. They just don't use the A word, but it's which is aardvark, by the way. But it was just sort of startling to see in a film from the 30s that kind of dynamic going on, because you wouldn't think that would happen. Same thing like in M, about a child killer. It was an amazing world before the Hays Code ruined everything. So all of that to say, it is worth your while to watch, right? It was on the Criterion channel not that long ago. I think I got the Blu-ray for, I don't know, $9 or something on Amazon, which if you go to needcoffee.com/Amazon, it helps us out. Thank you. But it is, however you need to see it, do see it, because I think you will agree that you can see, the ancestors of a lot of films and television that we've watched since then. And I think that's worth checking out. And hopefully it will spur you to, trace the family tree of other films back as well. Now, if I were to, and by the way, here's a fun thing. Find the original Old Dark House trailer, and then they did a 4K restoration of it, which was re-released in theaters a few years back, and they cut a new trailer for it, which is really fantastic. More contemporary feel than the original one, obviously, but it is something that would get, even if you didn't know what it was, you'd be like, what the heck? I think I might want to see that. So watch those back to back. You can probably find them both on YouTube, I would think. But from a cup standpoint, I think I would give this a 4 easy, but I'm going to give it another half a cup because I was so very impressed that it, like I said, maintained its level of creepiness. Now there's humor, right? There's funny stuff in there as well, which doesn't, it's not unblended, right? You can tell that it's put in there with a purpose, and it doesn't derail any of the creepy stuff. But the creepy stuff is creepy. I mean, I thought so. So I highly recommend you watch it. 4.5 out of 5 cups, and watch it wherever and however you can, in the best quality that you can find, because it's pretty good stuff. So that is probably the oldest movie that I've reviewed on video. And I don't know, maybe I'll go back and do the 1910 Frankenstein? I don't think it was 18. I think it was 1910. We'll do that later. Maybe we'll do that for Halloween. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please come check us out on needcoffee.com for other strange things that we feel like doing. And until next time, It's bye from me and my dog who's asleep off camera. And we'll see you on the Stayhomer reviews back at the couch. Bye.